Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Talk in Parish League. I'm your host, Leroy John Baptist, and it's indeed a pleasure to be in your presence once more, as today we are going to be bringing a sort of somber, but I don't want to say somber. We're going to be celebrating, and we're going to be speaking quite a bit on the life and times of the great man, Pat White. And so we have two distinguished gentlemen in studio who will be, they really will be doing most of the talking, because I know a little bit of Pat White, but so they will be telling you everything, and they'll be sharing their experiences, working along with him, interacting with him. And of course, Taddy will pitch in, as Taddy also was a part of the production there. But before we go any further, let us recognize our sponsor, our platinum sponsor, ACB Caribbean, Simply Smarter Banking. For 43 years, partnership with the Parish League circuit, and for that we're eternally grateful. It's been a long-standing partnership, and as you said, that is one of the longer partnerships you'll find right here in Antigua and Barbuda. So for all of your banking and financial needs, there's no hesitation in recommending ACB Caribbean, the #1 banking institution, not only in Antigua, but the Eastern Caribbean. Brands for Less. Carol and her team there at Brands for Less, just opposite the Old Deluxe Cinema, west of the Zachariah building there. You could visit them, whether it's clothing, footwear, cosmetic, appliance. You're looking at birthday gift, whatever you're looking for, just go to Brands for Less, speak to Carol and her team, and they will take very good care of you. School is coming back. You need your back-to-school supplies. Go right there at Brands for Less. They have everything right there for you. Seco Pharmacy. For all of your medicinal and pharmaceutical needs, it's definitely Seco Pharmacy, your one-stop vitality store. They'll keep you in good shape, keep you in good health, so be sure to check them out there at the corner of High and Temple Street, Seco Pharmacy. Digicel, the bigger, better network. For all of your internet and data needs, connectivity needs, whatever you need, just check them out there at Digicel. They have different branches right across Antigua, and they will take good care of you there. Plumbing and Electrical Limited. You'll see that big sign on the Potters Herberts Road marked PEL. It stands for Plumbing Electrical Limited. Be sure to visit them for all of your plumbing and electrical needs, whether you want it in wholesale, retail, whatever you want. Just check them out right there. If they don't have it, just ask for it and they will get it for you. Plumbing Electrical Limited, right there at the intersection of Potters and Herberts community there. All right, so as I said, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be speaking a little bit about, not a little bit, but a lot about the legend, one of Antigua's stalwarts, sporting icon, Pat White, as he's affectionately called, Pat White. And so, Taddy, good afternoon. How was your week? And we're ready for another edition.
Yeah, good afternoon, John, and the viewing audience. Well, the week was fairly okay, John, really goodish. The Sunday was special. I had this Christian for my grandson, and thereafter the week just evolved, But like I said, today is somewhere there for our great friend Pat White, P. White, who I've known for a damn long time, John. I've known Pat since 1963. Matter of fact, we used to be neighbors in Villa, at Bennett Street. He used to live between Bryson Street and Bennett Street. That's P. White. I can see his body right now riding the bicycle in Noel. Noel was famous who owned Pat for riding bike without shoes. So I know Pat used to be like a medium pace sweetie bowler. Bowling is like a sweetie medium pace stuff, Well, that's how you view them, John. Like a sweetie bowler. I can't listen. I ain't buying a headache. John. So all the time I go face somebody bowls to bounce and you have a dodge out the way, But I know about medium pace fellas, The guys don't like me. But P. White was an exceptional guy, He was in my opinion, one of the best umpire around the region. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, he get more to plenty trouble long time ago, John, when he was captain and so on. He had plenty of trouble, man, John. What happens? I did some training with a man named David Archer, who was a test umpire. Then I went down to Pat White. Then we played, John, we played in there, so you want no laws, no? Well, I didn't give me the most trouble, but I was armed with a lot. So, me challenge them. And they can't be caught a few times, but me with my case in them. But I'm with a lot, I get P. White. I don't know anything good. I tell you what, John, up to when lately, because one next to me, because we all the fly going. But someone can feel like make a bit like team one by never means for training teams them two them right here, but a good team, not like Michael team. A good team gonna go on to do great things, you know what I mean, John? So
yes.
it's better than a kind of team in there, you know what I mean? So I tell him, man, we work with him because we're working them sports and games for a long time too, you know what I mean? And I can tell him, man, I've done some games with you, and I said, Pat White, hey, John, I will tell you the truth. One time you play a match, and Pat White don't play, but I want you to play. Come on, if you don't win, your Pat don't play to fear. Which one is? I mean, feel, if I want to umpire, I want to break for the umpire. Once you break, you get a decision going out of favor, not Pat. And Pat, that was the man, John, a real honest, decent, upright umpire. You know, plan to take and make a break with it, but that was up. So I tell you, man, John, he's a man that I never remember him. Like, I was good, you know what I mean? And I find one joke got in one day, John. When my wife came back in New York, she went to do some kind of feature just for sports award. So yeah, I can do something about fact, you know, I can say that about so tell me, me not come here. You got work. So she said, you see, when you make me say, I'm not coming here. Anyway, I came out with Patty said to me a few days out, you want them to make you. She not hold back nothing to have, so boy, that's not coming here. You don't know she not hold back. That's why I put to job, you know what I mean? So, and my partner tell me that, you know what I mean? So, I tell you, man, he was a great man. I tell you, he did his administrative work the same way. You know what I mean? So, hey, may you rest in peace. But we say we're going to discuss him this afternoon. You have two great guys here who Pat mentored. I tell you what, I was trying to find a good friend, but I think we'll make it out of my when you come on the show today too. But we'll make it my when we later when you have. Maybe that 1 half and the show start 5 hours, you know? So, and I think one is on the PY too. But my own James, so he's in Texas now. I still on Brian.
Yeah. All right. Well, without further ado, let me introduce our guest today. We have sitting next to me the great Son. You that? Don't ask me.
Son James Stevens.
Son, aka James Stephen. James Stephen, aka Son. Son, welcome back to Talking Parish League.
Yes, good afternoon to your listening audience. I'm glad for this opportunity to this discussion about Pat White. As a Parish League umpire, I started in 1980. And Pat was my trainer, my coach, whichever trainer you want to use. But Pat was, as everyone knows, very, very serious. I started in 1980. I only did 3 matches, but I attend every morning session at the sport division with Pat White. And I sent out on the next program. Sometime later that year, I went by his office on Church Street, Upper Church Street, and he said to me, he said to me, listen, I want qualified umpire in school league. I said to myself, well, that's crazy, man. I'm not qualified. But then as I leave his office and walk across to the East Bus Station to catch the school bus, I say, okay, probably he sees something in me that I don't see. And I make myself a promise that I must be Parish League best umpire in 1981. And I did. I attended all the training session. That year, 1981, I was overworked by Mr. Arundel. I was out there every weekend. And every weekend, I get good reports. One weekend in a match, Cobb Hill versus Johnson Spines, I give a man first hat out. I believe Terry remember. And it's following week, and when I went...
It was in Carbon case, Woodwood?
No, Jarvis Point.
Okay.
I went to meet with the following Saturday morning in a time. Cross the street. How does it go to give around for us? But you say anything about that. But all I want to do, even though you're man out first up in that match, I still got a good report. All I wanted to do was to go out there the following week and stop Paddy from cussing me. I know what about it there, he must stop. Then later that year, we did an exam set by Mr. White. After we went to at that time it was 43 laws. Went through all the laws, we did an exam. I got 90. There's one question about the size and weight of the ball. I don't study that. That comes from the factory. So I say, I study that man, that comes from factory. So I got 90. I then asked Pat, why you put that in the exam that come from the factory? He says the only time to think about to put the packet in 100. So I say, okay.
So Pat, I stump you.
Yeah. And so we continue. Now time for the Thursday, the commercial bank Thursday. I passed through my sporting game with the drum. So Mr. Arundel said to me, look at the chamber. Everybody talk about this little boy so good, look at the chamber. I said, which one are you going to do that with the chamber? The bigger the audience, the better for me. Then he said, East Bus Station Thursday, you and Pat White. I said, yes man, that good. I with my coach. And so I went up there, and I have a very good match with my coach. I mean, I couldn't let my coach down. I mean, having been in that exam and got 90. That year there, I remember Teddy said to me, if it was possible for me to do 2 semi-finals, right? He will do that, because I do all the match, all the final at the Parish League. And I got a trip to St. Paul to finish off that year. Then later that year, I was invited to join the Antigua and Barbuda Cricket Umpire Association.
They were TV.
Now what?
The TV, part of TV.
Okay, Pat, TV for you.
Yeah.
All right. Just before we get into that aspect of it, let me bring in Clancy, and we also have on telephone. We have Basil. Good afternoon, Basil. Basil.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we're hearing you now, Basil. Good afternoon. Welcome to Talking Parish League. Today we're looking back at the life and time of the legendary umpire, sports administrator, commentator, Pat White.
You're quite muffled about the moment.
We're hearing you very clearly, Basil.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, go ahead, Basil.
I am saying that I have known Patrick, before Patrick as I have called him, since 1967-68. It may sound a long time ago, but when I met him, I was in the capacity of, I was scoring in the map, England versus Leeward Islands. And he was one of the commentators along with the famous lecture. And so excuse me, I noticed about him that he was quite knowledgeable. And then we had a talk, and I said to him that I'm interested in umpiring. You know, he said he would have seen me in Antigua in 1965 as a 16-year-old. Playing cricket for Montreal. After I did not play, I was emergency fieldman. But I had to be on the field for the entire, almost entire match because of one of our selected players who took sick. So he was the one of the guys who actually encouraged me and taught me into umpiring, taught me the umpiring thing along with people like Theodore Bramble of Montreal and Frank Edwards. Pat to me was like an axis that everything spun around him. He jumped forth. You know, I recall, on Saturdays or Sundays when football matches are played in Ontario, I would crave to listen to Pat White giving commentary on the Parish League. Of course, my favorite team was Empire. You know, and I can remember Pat calling names like Pelton, Anthony. You see, don't know everybody's nickname. You know, and but administratively, Patrick White, as I call him, Sir Patrick, he was president of the United Cricket Umpires Association. During my time, for about 10 years. 5 of those 10 years, I was vice president to him. He was a no-nonsense person, you know, he very meticulous, you know, in his dealings, you know, very careful sort of person. You know, he never wanted to give in and support. When I was recommended to the Western Cricket Board, I'm sorry, even before that, when I did my exam, early in 1980, I remember Patrick White calling me and said to me that I would never run, so I asked him, did favor? How do you know? He said that being president of the League Board, they were picking up as people would have had connections. So he said to me that I scored the most marks 90.5. I think Chance back would have been 85 or 86, and I chopped from Barbados Seaboard Buffett was 87, and Ralph Hodge 82 from Somerville. And I give more praise to Patrick for propelling me, you know, up the ladder, because it was through his influence why I was recommended to the Western Cricket Board. Sorry, excuse me for doing even doing first class matches. And I'm speaking very emotional because Whitey was home, not feeling well. I would call him every month to find how he is. And the last time I spoke to him, it would have been in June, July, I think. And he sounded quite strange that I spoke to him like that. How is he? She told me that he's not feeling too well these days. And then just last week when he passed away, I got a call from a gentleman in Ontario, a great friend of mine, who told me that Patrick passed away. I called Stephen, and I said to Stephen, no, I just heard that Pat passed away. And all this, just to verify, I called his wife, and he told me that I immediately, I'm a very soft-hearted person, very emotional, but I broke down. You know, because I had just spoken to him a little bit before that. And then slowly we got to miss him, you know, I'm going to miss him. He was an inspiration to me. You know, when I was promoted to the ICC level and so forth, I mean, he was one. He was not only was president, he would have been at that time, I think, president of the Western Cricket Umpires Association. I think he's done a lot for people like me, Chancima, and to an extent, Ralph Hodge and these guys. You know, we have lost a true patriot, you know, I mean, a great man. You know, as I said, that was like the axis that everything spun around him. I mean, and not only cricket, sport-wise. Now, what I don't know how many folks would have known that he's a cricket commentator and netball commentator. He did everything in cricket, in sports. You know, and certainly, I've got recordings of him commentating a football match. And that will stay with me forever. That lovely voice, that lovely tone, you know, I'm going to miss. You know, Patrick White, a great man. And so rest in peace, my dear friend.
All right, thank you, dear Basil. We're going to get back to you. Clancy, good afternoon again, and welcome back to Talking Parish League.
Good afternoon, John, and to the viewers and listeners. P. White, as Taddy mentioned, was how close we were, right? we're never going to say Pat White or Patrick White, right?
PY.
We just say P. White. And he would refer to me as C-Mac, right? And when I was a youngster playing school football and playing with Empire, I used to get home in the evening just to hear Pat giving a summary of the day's play as far as the football. And I remember playing for Empire once, and we lost a game to Superstars.
Was it bad day?
No, man. You know, I'm always taking care of business. Anyhow, during the commentary that evening, we were sponsored by Kentucky. And Pat came on and said, well, the chickens has come home to roost. Right? I mean, that apart from other remarks he would use, giving you some vision on the spot, right? Even though the game has been played already, you can virtually picture what had happened based on his description of the game, and the individuals, he would pick them out individually and say, well, look, who played well, who didn't play all that well, etc., right? But P and I was really close, real close. As a matter of fact, I'm his son, godfather, and he's my last son, godfather. That's how close we were, right? Even though Pat was the individual who dot the I's, cross the T's, and I still have that softer side of him, humorous side of him as well. And I give you a joke, as coordinator of Business League football, I wanted some trophies and so on, so I said, oh, look, I'm going to go to St. Martin, get the trophies. And when I get to the airport the Saturday morning, because I felt Saturday morning, no work, go get the trophies and then come back the Sunday evening, so nobody would know I'd left the weekend. So while I was checking at the airport in the departure lounge, I just saw over my shoulder, you know, the cat just catch the rat. Right? So I looked up and I saw him, you know, and I said, well, monkey see, monkey do. And then he replied, well, monkey get the tail cut off. Right? But, you know, because I said, well, he was leaving as well. I didn't know he was leaving. So I felt I could sneak in and get the job done. But outside of that as well, Pat was the individual who made sure I get qualified as a West Indies umpire. Right? I have to give Taddy and Fitzroy Brown the credit for that as well, because when I got into sports and games, football is my heart sport. I don't have any cricketing career to boast about. But then, as you were sports and games responsible for Parish League cricket, Taddy said, well, Clancy, you only have to learn the game, because I want umpire. So Pat came in, we did the training, and would you believe Taddy sent me to Cedar Grove to do my first match, right? And to do a match in Cedar Grove at that time was tough because the hostility in Cedar Grove was real high, you know, so you have to make sure you know what is happening and be in control of the game. And one of the things that happened in that particular game was the first time I saw it, where the ball hit the stumps, the bail came up and went straight back in the groove. Right? So, you know, everybody was, how was that? How was that? Haven't been taught by Pat. No, that's a disturbance. Right? So I said, not out. And you remember PD, Taddy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, PD came up to the stumps, uses me, bap, and knock off the bail. So I said to PD, look, just put back on the bail for me, please. Right. The game completed, and I was given credit for my handling of that game. And then after that, Taddy wants to send me see the roof every weekend. Nobody else wants to see the roof.
Well, look, Taddy say when people come to factory, he give them the hard test. So I guess as new umpires, just as he do James, he do you, he send you at a venue where he think that he gonna pull out the best out of you.
Well, I must give credit to that in hindsight, because it brought the best out of me, right, along with the training from Pat. And I was qualified in 1982, started doing first class cricket in 1984. And I can remember very clearly, I did a game in Guyana. Remember Paidana?
Yeah.
Yeah, the wicket keeper.
Wicketkeeper.
Yeah. And you know, at that time, the wicket keeping gloves used to tall up, all the way up here. Right?
Parts of it.
So Pat said to me, Clancy, when you get in that game, make sure you watch Paidana. No care where the ball is, watch Paidana. So it happened so that Paidana came up to the stumps. And would you believe he's taking the ball up here, and this knee is not hitting the ball off, and he's appealing for hit wicket, you know. But because I was given that bit of alertment by Pat, I saw it and I just said not out, and asked him to place the bails for me. Right? This is how Pat reacted. You want to make sure you're going to do well, and whatever tips or whatever information he can give you to get you up there, right? He would. And then not only the coach, as Stephen mentioned, he was my mentor, because I started to follow him along the trail of administration as well. Because after, when he was president in Leeward, I was the secretary at the association. Then he moved up to a vice president of the West Indies Umpires Association. I became president of Leewards. Then when he get to president of West Indies Cricket Umpires Association, I move up to area vice president. So like he was setting the stage, and I was following along the way. Right? And I can tell you, his stint as president of the West Indies Umpires Association was one that stood out. As a matter of fact, he was also nominated to be an honorary member of the West Indies Umpires Association, whereby at that point, wherever the convention is, the association would be responsible for his ticket,
Getting in there and
his
accommodation.
and all of that, right? And I remember a convention in Guyana. See, Pat had a lot of flair about him, which a lot of people never recognized. During his area vice president report, he started doing this famous song, you know, remember that I did it my way?
Yes, yes, yes.
That was his introduction towards his area vice president report. And at the end of it, Justice Rudolph Harper, he was the president of the West Indies Umpires Association at that time, and he said, look, we gotta give that a standing ovation, you know. And this is how thorough Pat was, right? There's so many things to say about Pat that it's, as you talk, you're just gonna remember things, you know. I remember also when we were at sports and games, he said, well, look, as coaches, you guys must make sure that at the end of every stint, you're able to report on what you did and give your achievement at the time. Because Pat didn't settle for just, hey, you're just a coach, and you couldn't report on it. Because one of the things he emphasized as well, you should be able to meet the press and talk to the press about what you would have done. Your knowledge must be wide, so that when any individual approach you, you should be able to say, well, look, I was coach, I took care of all these areas, and this was my achievement.
You can show a progression chart as to well. Not to cut you, Taddy. James, sorry, Basil, Stevens, feel free to come in at any time. This is your conversation. This is your time. Just share. You know, we could have an open conversation. For me, I just, listening to Pat on the radio doing the commentary, that's one word that always stick with me, meticulous. He chooses his words. You could hear him like just choosing his words to make sure they matched the situation, or to vividly express what was taking place on the field. And I've always had that word when I think of Pat White, a very meticulous kind of person. And funny you should say he had a lot of flair, because I was saying, Pat never really seemed to show a lot of flair. He just seemed to deal with what is in front of him and just get the job done. So when you said he had a lot of flair, I was just waiting to hear where you were going with that, because I never picked up that that a flair hearing him over the commentary. The commentary.
That excitement.
Right. He was just there, but you had a great understanding of what was taking place on the field. So guys, Basil, if you're still with us, feel free. Guys, feel free to just jump into the conversation.
Let me come in here.
Yeah.
Let me come in, please. Sadly, I am doing a tribute at this moment in the next 5 minutes on our local sports program.
Okay.
A tribute at White. And also to our legendary Jim Allen, who is still alive, but celebrated his 71st birthday a couple of days ago. So I am proud to do a tribute on our Lord. It's starting right now. At any moment, I will have to leave you all.
Okay, well, you put in your final comments then.
I didn't hear that.
No, so go straight ahead. Go right ahead.
I didn't hear that. You're quite muffled.
Now you say you can have your send out so you can go to the show. Basil.
No, you go on. You go. I'll listen, but I'll have to listen you all in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, no problem, Basil. You can speak. You can speak now.
So I am saying that Patrick White has somebody included to was a very ridiculous person, and he cared for us a lot, especially those from the idols who have to do fighters go a performance fighters would have been on time. He would make a case for us. And I recall when that was our president and Travis was that they both fought for us from the Iron Hands. I mean, I am proud, that I have at least achieved what I wanted to achieve. But I'm saying this that we will be sending a delegation to the funeral. I discussed the matter with our president, Mr. Jefferson. So I think that one or two of us will be in Antigua as soon as we get the date for his funeral. Will it be a not state funeral? Will it be a what do you call it? Not state funeral.
Official?
Hello.
We'll know by Friday. By Friday we'll get a clearer picture as to what will be done for Pat White.
Yeah, I can hear you better now. But somebody will keep me posted as to when is your funeral.
So far it is the 31st day of August.
That's the date, sir?
Yeah, they say tentative.
Tentative.
Yeah, you heard that Basil, tentative date, 31st of August.
Yes. Another thing that I don't think most people would have known, that Pat was a racer trainer. I mean, I recall during the 1968 tour, he did an editorial covering English tour. I mean, we sit on that copy where he spoke about the deal with team, management, and also the Kingdom team that was captained by Colin Cowdery. And other than giving commentary, he wrote about cricket many times. And so he was a well-rounded person, and I respected him quite well. He was, as Captain Max said, he was one of my mentors, I respected him again, I respected him still. And I'm going to miss him, I once went to see him at Forum, you know, but as I said before, I often would have a talk with him every month, you know, and so forth. But he's gone, you know, and I meet him, you know. At this moment of time, you know, I'm getting on in age, you know, and like everybody else who's living, and not keeping so well sometimes, but I'm thank God I'm still employed by the government as a consultant, and you know, and cricket pitches and football, which is one of my forte, you know, and so I'm still pretty active, you know.
Mature.
I'm still served the Munster Cricket Umpires Association as a trainer, you know, so Pat White is partly responsible for my movement up as an umpire. And I'm, as I said, repeating myself, to be dearly missed, you know, and thanks Scotty for hooking me up and all the who hooking me up on this program, but I have to leave now to do a similar tribute to Patrick White, as I usually call him, Sir Pat.
Well, just before you go, Basil, I'm sure you can attest to the fact that as President in the Works, Pat would very much support whoever the umpires in the leagues that he's satisfied has the potential to go further, and he would openly attack the administration as far as the appointments are concerned. Andrew Weeks, right? I can call Pat querying why is Andrew only getting test match in the leagues, right? When he's capable of going further. Right? And Pat made no bones about letting his feelings known as to the appointment of leeward umpires. And at some given time, all the Pat leeward umpires has to give credit to Pat and his fight as far as leeward umpires are concerned.
I'm saying that he was a humanitarian, you know, and he loved people, and he believes in right, if there's a word, rightfulness. he doesn't believe in crookedness, you know what I mean? And as I said before, he would close his neck for us in the West or in the island, you know, and I'm going to miss that voice, you know. Even when I call him just to say, whenever I call him, he would recognize my voice. He said, "Who is that, Miles?" I would say, "Yes, Sir Patrick." One thing I'm not a politician, but sadly, you know, I thought that Pat would have been honored, you know, some years ago. I mean, as I said, I'm not a politician, but for all his contributions to both, not cricket only, as an administrator, as an umpire, and as someone who, you know, helped. I mean, from what I understand, that he was from Villa. When he was born, he did a lot of work there. And then he went on to Foreign to live. He did a lot of work, humanitarian work there. I thought he would have been honored, when I say honored, to be knighted. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, but he would have been well deserving of that honor.
All right, thanks a lot, Basil. Thanks for joining us. And
I'm going to leave you guys now, and I'll see you all whenever the period is.
all right, we do look forward to that, Basil. So it was indeed a pleasure having you, and I'm sure we will make this connection sometime in the future again. Now, James, you spoke about your coaching sessions with Pat White. Just speak a little bit about him as the word used, mentor, instructor. Just speak a little bit about, you know, what he brought to the table that really motivated you, influenced you, encouraged you to really take your umpiring standards to a next level.
Yes, as I said earlier, that information from the ministry that afternoon, that started me, and I make my goal and I scored at that goal. Besides that, after I joined the association in 1982, when he invited me, he steal me away from Parish League.
Well, how about this stealing though?
Right?
I see the time with you. Don't cancel man. Time with you.
What happened? How come you jump ship, James? Tell me.
No, he saw
The potential.
right. And so he invited me to join the association. But at the same time, he said to me, Stephen, I'm inviting you to join the association, but it's not easy. I wonder why. He said to me, listen, if you go there, you apply the law wrong, I see big man cry. At the time, you know, most of the umpires back then were elders.
Right.
He said, yes, I see big man cry. When they go there, make a mistake, apply the law wrong. Thursday night in match review, then guys deal with you and give you hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So after I join now,
Wait, me love like a story, me love like a drama. When you make the move, you tell Taddy anything, I just slide over.
I think I just slide over. Yeah, I think I just slide over.
Go ahead.
My first match under the association heading, that was the same year when Lee was separated from Windward, 1982.
Okay.
My first match was Lee Island practice match. Now I moved from Parish League, then do no association game as yet, into a Lee Island practice match with all the big names. The Vivi, Andy Roberts, Eldin Baptist was there, Richie was there, Hugo, I think Gene Gould, Jim Allen, Vance Amy, we become friends, me and Vance remain friends until he passed, right? The Willett, the Parry, Livingston Sergeant, the whole works at East Bus Station again. So you could say that's a first class match per se with all those big names. But my first Parish League match was at Golden Grove. And like Kansas, I never umpire see the Grove. Right,
You're too far, man.
my first match was at Golden Grove, and the first person I happened to give out was a cart behind by the wicket keeper. The wicket keeper dived in front of third slip and catch this man.
Third slip.
Third slip. And this man stand up and look at me. So I said, wait, this is a difficult job. The non-striker went and said to him, you play the ball. So when he come and say, what you man tell you? Come just start. He say, he not play the ball. So I said, what you tell you? He said, me tell him, I may ask if he dead. Anyway, at the first break, at that time Golden Grove, the main one, and the mango tree. He come and meet me on the free and say, yeah, he apologize. Because the players are under the mango tree telling him to play the ball. He said he didn't know. That he play the ball. The ball keeper dives at ball. This still job and difficult job. But with encouragement from Pat, I stick to it. Now, my last Parish League match before I do association match this time, I find myself in a little problem where I pull a stump after a player a Sunday morning. I don't know who tell Pat White, but the Monday morning I was to do a school match in Old Road, and Pat was down the road early and bright. You're not doing a match in Old Road, you're coming to St. John's. And you know, Pat don't drive fast. And Pat give it to me from Old Road to St. John's. Okay? All the good you good. GL Budden represent country. And he give it to me. Yeah, I put this on just before the game started on the Sunday morning. After the game. And he gave me a good warning, gave me a good lashing. The Thursday night now, because, I mean, all the umpires are my bigger brothers.
Right.
And all the umpires the Thursday night gave me a good lick in that meeting, including the one on my left. Everybody beat me. And so, after that kind of control,
The temper.
my temper.
You see, one of the things I note now, even with the young umpires, as soon as they get criticized, they take it real personal, as if, well, that's the end of the day, right? As Stephen mentioned, when you come Thursday night, and you heard an appointed law, boss, you're going to get a thrashing, right? Because Pat made sure, look, once he was given the instructions, he would give us scenarios. If this should happen, this is how we should deal with it, right? So once you go outside of that, right, you're not going to get away. And everybody would put in their own little piece, because the idea was, if you can't take it in here, how do you take it out on the field, right? We have to get you prepared in here to take the fight on the field. And one thing he said to me as well, hey, let people criticize your opinion. Never allow them to criticize your interpretation and applying the law.
I like that one.
Thorough when it comes to the law. And I did exactly that. I recall one time there was a game in ARG and somebody felt I had given a wrong decision. Right? So I asked them what the law say about that particular setting. And I recall Vern Edwards Sr. saying, no, don't discuss law. Tell him that decision was a bad decision. Because if you talk about the law, you're not going to win. Right? And that was one thing, I pride myself with, knowing the law and how to apply it. Right? One of the areas as far as Pat umpiring is concerned, because as I mentioned, right, I followed closely and we worked together with that personal offense. It was in 1985, 83, they had a panel of 7 umpires for a test panel. Pat never get a test match. 85, it was down from 7 to 5. Pat was still on it and never got a test match. And Johnny Gale had done a test match 13 years prior, and they brought him and give him a test match in front of Pat. Right? That, I think, was one of the hardest nut to crack. Right? And I felt too, I didn't think Pat get the support at the Leewards generally, even Antigua, as far as pushing to make sure. I know for sure we both suffered the consequences in the Leewards, where, as Taddy mentioned earlier, when we're doing the game, we don't give no hometown decision, we do it the way we see it. Some individuals felt that, and they said it when they're in the other territories. Umpires would lean in whichever home team it is, but we never gave anything away.
Well, let me just ask a quick question, Clancy, because that has always been a discussion point, that, for all of the accomplishment of Pat White, he never stood in a test match. Did he ever discuss that, that you're aware of? What was his feeling about that? How did he take that situation?
Well, I can tell you, he was very disappointed. Right? As I mentioned earlier, 2 years earlier, for 7 down to 5, and he was still there because of his performance in the field. Right? Because there's no way they're going to move the panel from 7 to 5, and you're still there, and you weren't performing well.
That is so.
Right? And he wasn't given that situation. We discussed it, and he said, well, Sima, you have to continue, because I can tell you, for 10 consecutive years, I stand by in every test match played in Antigua, for 10 consecutive years, right? Until...
Wait, start maybe the third umpire.
Yeah, right, because those times there wasn't the TV umpire and all of that.
Right.
So it simply meant that should anything happen to one of the two, you're next in line. Right? And that situation came about Pakistan West Indies 93 when Dickie Bird got hit from a throw from Keita at the time. Right? And I went in the test match. Whether looking back in it, I sometimes smile to myself because I can tell you, I get some licks that afternoon because I gave Brian Lara and Keith Atherton leg before in successive balls. Right? And the crowd wasn't pleased at all because at the time everybody could watch Lara.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, Clancy. You ever look back and second guess your decision?
Not those.
Not tell Howie.
Not those. I tell you, it was Tony White who gave me a copy of that game sometime after. Right? And Tony. Tony gave it to me.
Oh, yeah, that's where you get the copy from.
I don't know where he got it, but he gave me another, an 8-track at the time. And he gave it a copy. He gave me a copy, right? And when I look at it, as a matter of fact, the next morning, John Jarvis was the only person who came back to me and said, well, look, I saw those decisions and replay, and they were out. So I said to him, John, I gave them out yesterday, right? Because at the time, you had to wait until the evening to see the replays. Right? And I can tell you, Lara, he just went back, legs close like that. Look, it's just the legs that prevent the ball from hitting. Straight down the middle. Keita at the time played forward, missed the ball completely, and the ball came through and hit the back leg. And when I gave him out, he just looked down at the front leg and then looked back. And somebody said, oh, no, Clancy, look where the man is. Look where the stump is. And he gave the man out. Right? They never recognized the ball, never hit the front pad. The ball goes straight to the back pad and prevent it from hitting the stumps. Right? So I can tell you, at that point, listening to the tape, they asked Tony, the English, when you commentating, he used to open that for England at one point.
Boycott?
Jeff Boycott. What he thought about my performance in the field that afternoon. And he said, well, on a scale of 10, I'd give him 9 because I turned down another appeal for Desmond Haynes. And they shout, oh, Clancy, shame now, we don't T4 too. It's shame for the Desio. But Boycott said, well, look, for his judgment, he could have gone either way. And if I said no, he had no problem with it. Right? So you find after that now, and I tell you more, I was given some information later, even up in the press box among the officials up there, that Hugh C. Goa was the only person who defended me up there. Because then Kanai, who was manager at the time, said, what is going on here? This man just going to start giving man out just like that, And then the top Hughes said, well, he's the umpire down there, and if that's the way he saw it, I had no problem with it. All the others, and it was said that Frank, I got up and said, well, I have to go and see this. So he went to the monitor room to see the replay. And he came back and just sit down and never said anything about the decisions.
Johnny, I tell my Clancy and Steve a little bit, because what happens, right? They tell me umpire and go and do the job when they start. When umpire Parish again for the first time, well, I would call with a Monday, because those days, 2 of the games, Saturday, Sunday, say. So I call up and say, how was the game? I did a good job, man. Say, so how you know you did a good job? Well, nobody complained. So he said, he gave everybody what LBW. said,
But that's where the complaint always comes from.
Then he said no. So all right, when you get the first one, LBW, let me know you go. But the next week, you submit LBW, well, the customer says someone thief. Well, it's not going to cost them to that. But next year, do a good job. be honest with the decision you take. Make sure, like Clancy say, you follow the law.
Right.
Stick with the law. If you stick with the law, hey, they can cut the law on the leg.
Well, obviously, once you start umpiring, you get two names, you know, two additional names. You're blind and your teeth. Right? And this is why a lot of people refuse to go in the middle. You know. I recall one day in a school game, I asked an individual just to go strike his end. Right? And I would go from stump to stump. And the man bluntly refused. And he was one of my biggest critics, you know. Every time he see me, teeth and cancer. And he refused to go for strikers and to strike his end. Right? We're still trying to encourage people to come and join the Umpires Association. Equally so females as well. Right? Because there's a lot of opportunities now for female umpires.
Yeah, true.
Right? The West Indies Board wants to set up an all-female umpires panel. Right? There's opportunities.
They play like the cricket now, the women play like the cricket now too.
Yeah, right? And it's rewarding. You can make it a career. Right?
But
So
James, just before Clancy go there, let me just jump to you quickly. How do you handle, how you personally, how do you handle these? Because we are spectators outside. I mean, we see all the angles of the game. We see everything. We know everything. And so we come at you very hard. And much as the players, as Taddy say, how do you really soak that up? How do you not make that affect your performance on the field?
Well, in my, probably because I started very young, as a little boy, it became part of me. So even up to now, people say something about me, I just ignore them. I'm very good at ignoring people. And that comes from umpiring. And you've got to be strong. And all that, you know, was built in me from Pat training. I remember during a match, a school league match at Radio Range. I was the only umpire going from end to end, as Clancy just explained. And this guy coming from work the afternoon, Atlas was batting, Atlas who was playing against Johnson's playing school. That was 1982. And I give a man out LBW.
Trouble start.
A man at his side waved his axe. You lang, this was the exact word, you lang ugly skinny boy. If you came by his LBW, left hand at us. He said, what? Anyway, the batsman went out. The batsman came in, took his guard, ball run in, the ball hit him on his pad, he's out LBW, and I raised my hand. I still have them. You got to be brave. You got to be brave to be an officiator and be successful. You can't take on the public. If you're going to take on the public, you're going to find yourself in difficulties. And the Antiguans back then, we did not go to the highest level, not because we can't umpire, because we're born in Antigua. And that is true. If our test players back then said the same thing to us, because we tell you that. No, not because we wasn't good enough, but because we're from Antigua. And again, in particular, Pat was very outspoken. Andrew Weeks do one test match outside of Antigua. And because of Pat, Kansas went to convention and abuse. And I give him one, it's either Jamaica or Barbados. That was how they cheat us. So not only our players get rough treatment, our umpires get rough treatment. As a matter of fact, a Youth World Cup match was played in Antigua in preparation for the Youth World Cup at Jelly Beach. And I received a telephone call from a West Indies official that he wanted me and Kansas to do that match at Jelly Beach. Antigua against the Youth World Cup side. I said, no problem, but it continued that we must not give certain players LBW. I mean, I was shocked. So I said to him, with all respect to you, sir, James Steve umpire, so you out to tap bats. And Clancy not gonna do it either. You say, okay, do it how you know it. And for about 4 years, I only stand by. After that, for about 4 years, I only stand by. I remember coming down from at ARG, coming down from upstairs, going to the side door in the pavilion. The then secretary meets me and say, Steve, not feeling away now, because I stand by 4 matches that year. Not feeling away, I mean, that's the fixture. I say, you're okay, man, you at least have a conscience. But that's where we have to go through rough time coming from the small islands as players and officials.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to take a little break here. When we get back, I want us to just talk a little bit about Pat, the administrator. Clancy, you would have worked very close with him. I think Taddy, you would have had some experience in that too. So we just want to speak a little bit of Pat, the administrator. I remember him as the, what do you call him, the director of sports or something like that. I remember hearing a lot about that. So we're going to speak a little bit about Pat as the director of sports and other administrative functions that you would have served in as president of the different umpire association. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Talking Parish League, and we're coming to you live on our platform, our Facebook platform, our YouTube platform, and also we are on CTV. Oh, we're not on CTV Channel 8 today? All right. Well, we'll be back next week on CTV Channel 8. All right. ACB Caribbean, Simply Smarter Banking. For all of your banking and financial needs, be sure to check them out there at ACB Caribbean, and they will take good care of you there with all of your financial needs. Zen Body and Skincare, enhancing your natural beauty. Distributor of Black Girl Sunscreen, made by women of color for people of color. A sunscreen for everyday use. Zen Body and Skincare. They're located at Ways Estate, east of Pickett's, north of the Social Security Housing Project. Blue Mountain Water, the most refreshing and thirst-quenching water on the island. Blue Mountain Water, distributed by mega distributors on American Road. Pine Hill Juice, with a variety of flavor sizes providing the most exotic taste. It's Pine Hill Juice, distributor Hutchinson Wholesale, located on the Sydney Walling Highway, and you could check them out for the different variety of Pine Hill Juice there. Cool and Smooth, located on Lower Market Street, east of the Market Complex, for all of your sporting accessories, uniforms, household appliances, clothing, and even your back-to-school supplies. Be sure to check them out at Cool and Smooth. Mayor and his team down there at the Market Complex, they will take care of you right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we're back for our final stretch of this edition of Talking Parish League, and today we're looking at the life and time and the contribution of the great man, Pat White, and as Clancy and Taddy would have said, even referred to as P. White there. We want to say good afternoon to Cheryl Jude. Thanks for watching. Marvel Samuel. Marvel says, good afternoon, Mr. President and Mr. Mack. And we also have Myron James saying good afternoon, guys. So we want to thank all of you who are watching us on our different platform. Taddy, I don't know if you want to lead off.
I want to say something there because Steve said something very interesting, And I want to believe, I've been saying that for about some years now. I believe that is part of the reason why Western cricket is in this tailspin. What happens is an umpire is a team for them now and help them now. What happens is when the decision go in their favor, they can go to third umpire, TV umpire and stuff. Old time days, those players up down the islands used to have umpires help them. And it's a known fact. But that's why I say our guys on TV never get no help. We have to work our way up there. Cricketers, umpires alike. We only get there, we know we deserve to be there. But I have heard of this many, many times, many years ago. Those guys like Stevens, what the official told Steven, don't give this guy this, don't give the guy, we don't know the kind of language if you go to vacation, you're going to perform well, I think you're calling him, you better do well because nobody loves you out there unless you're doing well now. They go to see, you do the best you can do. They don't expect nobody to help you. And at class, you get out to that.
Yeah, well, certainly. I can recall at one time, Pat and I was doing a game in St. Kitts. And, well, Pat gave a decision which, from an Antiguan point of view, they felt, well, Pat should not have given that decision, right? And I can tell you, he was harshly criticized by the official in that game, who's Antiguans as well, right? Because they felt, look, you're Antiguan, right? You should be given this hometown thing, right? And
that your part?
No, never.
You didn't know the language there?
No.
I know that for a fact.
I tell you further, right? A former vice president at the West Indies Cricket Board, right? We're in recreation ground one afternoon, and he was trying to convince me, well, look, once it's West Indies against England, Australia, once it's black and white, I supposed to make sure that West Indies win. And I tell him frankly, sorry, no, don't put me out. And he said to me, look, if the board asks about Clancy, I would say yes, he's good, but he's not going to make sure we win. Right? And to this day, I know that is one of the hindrances as well. Right? But I must admit, he did tell me directly to my face his feelings, right? While others would have done that otherwise, right? As far as, I just want to go back a bit, as far as what is considered Pat White steal us from Parish League, right? What I know for sure, that at the time, the Antigua Cricket Umpires Association was the only body authorized for umpires to do
First
exam and qualify. Exactly. So
it's an upward movement for you guys.
yeah, so but look, if you want to go further, then you have
We
to come.
supported that, you know, we support that.
Yeah, right.
We
So I would say
David Archie to chase you guys too.
true. So I would say Pat didn't steal us. He just created the avenue whereby we can go further.
That is true.
Right? And from there, well, the rest is history. Right? So, but I would just say, you know, a lot of people don't even recognize how long the Pat was. When I was coaching the Antigua national football team, Pat was the manager of the national football team. Right? And I can tell you, he was one of the individuals that made my end secure, because I could concentrate on my end, coaching. Because as far as the administration and the group is concerned, making sure he has all the passport, the visa if necessary, the immigration cards, all of that. Right? Pat took care of all of those situations.
Somebody told me today, when Pat was manager, every player had all the clothes, everything uniform ready for you.
Yeah.
And the numbers, everything.
Everything. Pat took care of all those areas. Right? But you hear a lot of people only talk as Pat from a cricketing point of view, because they never realized Pat was that rounded an individual. Right? That football too was very much a part of his armor.
I think Basil spoke a little bit about even netball or something like that.
Netball.
Yeah.
Right? I recall Pat saying to me, Clancy, you're a coach, so you better make sure that this team perform properly, right? Because it's not the manager who is responsible for the on-field part of it. You are. So make sure that you get your end covered, right? Because as I agree, right, he would not try to get into the other area where he's not. He gives everybody the opportunity to do their part and to perfect their area, right? And to just highlight that, I remember there was another manager at the football team after Pat would have left. And we had a serious difference. We were playing Grenada here in the first OECS tournament. And we had selected the team. And just before we brought the group together and announced the team, he had already hinted well-known individual from his area, well, look, the coach didn't pick you in the team. So the afternoon, the player came and I heard him dropping words and things like that. And I know he could not have done that unless word got out to the team. Right? And he was saying, well, look, he's manager of this team. So therefore, as far as the selection of this team goes, he's the individual who's responsible for that. So I said, no way. I'm the field marshal.
So
I lead this team into battle.
For instance, the manager helped trick team?
Yeah, at the time.
At the time,
At the
okay.
time, yeah.
Okay.
We had a coaching staff, right, and a manager.
But what, did they have selectors like the pick team and so on at the time? Football team?
No. Because I objected to that, because
Okay.
if we are there every day with the team, we're doing the training, we're doing everything,
I concur. I agree with you.
right? So I remember there was a situation as well where they were saying, look, the executive ratified the team. I said, no. As a matter of courtesy, you must notify the official, the executive first at the squad, right? Just to let you know the team you're working with. Because the executive is not there every day, seeing the training and see who's performing well and doing what is required. So they can ratify the selection. They are notified as to the selection, right? When anything goes wrong, then the coaching staff and the management has to bear the responsibility for that. And as you know, the saying, players win matches, coaches lose them, right? So therefore, I feel very proud as well as one of the pioneers changing that particular status of things, right? And I did so easily with the concurrence of Pat, right? Because he too felt that way about it. If we are the ones responsible for the team and making sure everything happens for that team, how can an executive who doesn't come to the practice sessions and what we're doing have the right to say, well, look, you should pick time.
He should have the team.
Yeah.
Taddy shouldn't.
Exactly.
He didn't know Taddy practice.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
You know what I mean?
And I tell you, Quentin Clark, he was playing second division football at the time when he was selected as a national player. People thought, hey, Clancy, a crazy man, because at the time they only look at players within the Premier Division, right? And I used to watch all the football, and I saw this young man who has exceptional skills, right? And so he was drafted in, right? But I can tell you, for sure, right? Because we discussed it. He wouldn't do anything by himself and say, well, look, as manager, this is how it's going to be. As a team, we'd get together, right? And say, well, look, this is the proposal. Give your view on it and why. And don't say, I want this battle, and don't have a reason for saying you want that battle, You must give him a reason why you want that battle, and you must be able to defend that, right? That's what kind of individual Pat was.
Gentlemen, as we're going to look to wrap up soon, I want to talk about, we talk about all of the administrative, all of, the commentary. What about Pat as an individual? Can anybody speak to, Pat, right? Because I see Pat, Pat just seems to be a straight kind of guy, but what was he like as an individual,
As apart from the administration part of it, everybody said, hey, Pat a smooth fellow, I mean, he loves to make jokes as well, right? And hey, Pat is going to tell you something funny, but if you look at his face to say, get a reaction to that, looking at his face, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, you feel like just a kind of bland person.
Yeah, but trust me, when you listen keenly to what he's saying, then you get the humor in the things he would say, right? And he would never, I can't see him flustered at all, even though he might have his own personal feelings about whatever it was. I can't recall ever seeing him flustered to the extent where you can see, anger is coming out of his appearance, and what he's going to do is from an angry side of him. Right? If he feels that way, he's a master at covering that and just dealing with the facts before him. right? And this is why too, I think he took over to the administration to be able to look at things objectively, right? And deal with it according to the facts before him, right? But very humorous in many situations. Some I dare not say on the airways.
Yeah, Pat, he have his humor side. He commentate football, he commentate cricket, commentate netball, and he was involved with Calypso. I remember one I listened to a Calypso show, he and the big one. At the end of the competition, the big one said, Pat, name your top three. He kind of ignored the big one. He said, Pat, name your top three. He said, don't stop me. And he named all 10.
Oh, he named all 10.
That was the don't stop me.
Right.
And he named everyone. No, that was. He's humorous. He has his side, but he more on the serious side.
Taddy, you would have worked with him a bit.
I mean, sports and games, yeah, but did a lot of work there, Pat, you know what I mean? Pat was director and so on, and hey, Pat can make sure things in place. That's one thing about Pat, you know, he can make sure things in place. You go there and do the job and do the job to the best of your ability. And yeah, I support you, you know what I mean? Hey, at one time they said Taddy too rough for the school guys, coaching them and so tough and this and that, you know what I mean? But people I think know the kind of nonsense, you know what I mean? You just get a report. That Taddy too hard and them, training them too hard and this, you know. But PY being a man around top league cricketers, this is first class and so on. He had the idea what it takes to get to the next level.
Right.
And that's what I was pushing for. And I got support from P. White, you know what I mean? Like I say, P. White, he was my good friend. I tell you, when it especially being with Parish League so long, it's when you come to the law, and it's your card, Pat. I want to make sure we know it, because I want to know, you know, because anything up over there, first thing comes to me. As a matter of fact, Pat is one of our arbitrators, in fact, she have an issue. We bring in our court. Clancy, one of our judges, you know. Clancy, yes.
But how they say where you say go? Me didn't know you have
See, that's where you're here. That's
a Taddy on the highway, you know? So we didn't have arbitrators also. Yeah, we did, and you see class color, something like I can pick up when a case, you know. You have to adjudicate this and so on. I might take a decision that might overrule me and say, that they go suffer now. Without anything that the court said, we go along with. That's what it is. So it was like, Johnny, not like what you hear now. Parish, you got the highest body that regulates things. You know, you hear the guy that says, Taddy this and Taddy that. Hey, Taddy a tough guy. But not always tough, you know what I mean?
Right.
Clancy and Pat White and Scala, all kind of people. They come and QC, you know, we get them to come and say, look, hey, take this case. You know what I mean? Anything I say, that's what it is. And they usually softer than me, you know what I mean?
Well, we always, first thing we always do is to make sure we look at it from the law point of view.
Exactly.
Based on what happens, what the let's say ought to be done in that given situation, and then we would make a ruling based on that. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be doing things outside of the law.
Right, not your opinion, it's the law. The law dictates.
Yeah. But just forget opinion, because look, people sit over there, and they will tell you what is like before here. Right? I give you a case in time. It was Leewards versus Windwards here in Antigua, right? And you hear this whole talk about cancer and whatnot. I'll give you the story of it. If you ask the average individual why that was said, they don't know. But I'm going to give it. Leewards batting in the afternoon, and the last ball of the day, which he padded the ball. He just pushed the pad like that, and the ball ballooned from the pad, hit the bat here. Junior Murray took the catch, right? So all of the crowd see was the pad, and then they hear the shout, and Clancy hand went up, right? And a known radio personality and I'm going to say it.
A good friend?
Yeah. Dave Lester Payne, right? He asked the question in the morning, who was the umpire that gave Richie out? And then Betty Livingston, the spicy Betty Bird, right? She called in and said,
Your brain was better.
yeah, and then she called in and said, oh, I can't see Clancy.
Are they right?
Yeah, Clancy, right. But then, obviously, right, that was one of the situations where I was given a lot of flack because they figure the last ball of the day, right, I should not have given Mitchie out. They didn't see. See, umpires have to watch the ball until it's dead. The ordinary spectator just watch the first impact on the ball and then decide what happens there, right? So they never realize that the ball came from the bat, from the pad, hit the bat here, and the catch was taken. Right? And that's how this whole thing started. Right? Obviously, when if I had followed my lawyer then, I'd be on top of the
I want to say good afternoon to Francine Brown Maynard. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct.
I'm a family man.
I don't suspect that. Yeah. Good afternoon. Good to have you on board, Francine. No, gentlemen, you know, it's always, for me, it's always a bit painful. I find it's only in the time of people passing, you know, we throw a lot of accolades in them and, you know, they're the best thing that ever lived, but when they're alive, we never really, you know, flourish them. Because I know one of the discussion that will soon come up is, you know, how are we going to honor the legacy of Pat White, you know, what can be done and stuff like that. But I'm just hoping, you know, sooner rather than later, you know, we really start to put our stalwarts out there and get people to document. You sit with them and really document their experiences and start to build an archive, because, you know, when you go, you know, they say it's one thing you go with, is what's in your head. Nobody can extract that from you. You understand? And I'm really hoping that we will start to see that vision, that line where we really just focus on those persons who would have made an indelible impact on so many lives. You know, we give so many people national award for foolishness. Pardon me, I maybe shouldn't say foolishness, but, you know, for things that, you know, but we need to start to look at the people who would have had a significant impact on lives and a positive impact. And I'm really hoping that, you know, that can soon become a mantra of some ministry or some body, because we need to start to recognize our people before they pass, and to let the youngsters know what they would have accomplished along the way.
And one other thing I would like to see as well, especially from a Leeward's point of view, is that we start having Leeward Islands cricket return, so that umpires can get an avenue where they can advance. Because the fact that there's no Leeward Island tournament, then there's no way for the umpires to perform and to be assessed and then get promotion, right? Because as it stands right now, there's only one individual from the Leewards who is on the top tier, which is Carl Tuckett, and there's only one more individual on the B panel, which is Bernard Joseph, right?
Council, let me ask you a straight question. What is the situation with Bernard? Because Bernard around donkey years, and Bernard now, Bernard out of the system. You're going to have to say, and have to say.
No, well, I was about to say Steve gave dance.
John, I want to jump in, you know, because I've been saying this in the shop for the longest while now. I'm so happy Clancy said that, you know. Because I tell you, the cricketers suffer the same like the umpires. No cricket match being played. So umpires can't be assessed. Just like cricketers, players, you can't say, you can't once you find me two guys. You have anybody down there. You can't work. You have a tournament. If you go there, you can see the umpires, you can assess them and grade them. But nothing happening. So the umpires suffer just like the players. It's nonsense.
Bernard, you know, his time since 2012.
It's 10 years now.
2012.
And
I mean, he's not getting younger, you know.
much.
Obviously. What is the situation? Because I was asking some questions. I think it was in, I don't remember which tournament it was, and they were telling me about the TV replay. I mean, I don't want to sound too audacious, but how difficult it is for our umpires to be trained in that aspect? Because I think that's one of the things they said they couldn't let Bernard do it because he don't understand TV replay. I don't know.
Maybe don't understand TV.
That's what I was told. I don't know if it's true. Or if
What's so hard to understand what
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Listen, once you know the laws, you apply the law.
That's it.
Whether it's on television, TV, whatever you want to call it, straight and fail, you know the law, you apply it accordingly.
John, anybody tells you crazy. That's stupid. Because when you tell you play, you can take your time and say exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
It's easy for you to play.
That was my
So we play from whichever angle.
exactly. That was my take. I said I had to be foolishness. But they were trying to convince me. Oh, I can't remember what tournament. We had a tournament here, and we didn't have Bernard couldn't get any game, and I'm like, what the sense is this making? You know?
Well, I can tell you there's a protocol whereby the first class umpires, senior umpires, they have this training program to do the TV, specifically TV reviews, right? And as such, they give you a simulated situations, right? And you would have to know exactly what you're supposed to answer at a given time, right? Because you have to work with the producer.
Okay, I understand those symmetrics, but what I'm saying is, Clancy, the cricket is in Antigua. Why can't I sit along with the experts then to understand those fine points, if you want to put it that way?
Well, I don't know there's any particular hindrance to that apart from the international games, whereby if you're not in the
Elite
yeah,
umpire, yeah.
right,
You're not in the watch already, you know?
the elite panel,
Umpires.
right? Well, you have the elite panel plus you have the emerging panel as well, which is considered the second tier, right? So unless you're appointed to those areas, then you're not allowed to be in the area at that given time. So I think in such a case, there might be the need to get to whoever is match referee, right, and get his acceptance to that.
Because you see, as you rightfully said, dear Clancy, because there's no cricket, the umpires are not given an opportunity to display their skill set and so to be evaluated. So I'm saying then, if these limited opportunities come and we have these international games or whatever games we have here, isn't there a protocol, a system where we could say, hey, the umpire associate, whoever can make a representative, say, hey, can we have two of these umpires just rub shoulders with these guys, throughout the tournament? I know like Bernard and so goes around, but we can get in one or two more. I don't know if that is possible or if that's out of the key.
That is possible at regional level.
Okay.
That's when I get to do the assessment form.
Okay.
So they are familiar with the assessment form, but in terms of the TV replay, well, we don't use it at a regional
That's what
level.
that's what I want to get there. They don't do
Right,
TV.
you don't use it there.
Regional.
You need to get there,
Yeah.
and then the umpires can have that avenue, and then move up.
They're not replay for original stuff.
No.
It's strange to me.
And
This
we're
is
probably
what
the only test playing country in the universe that don't have that in our cricket.
The marketing too expensive, but in the Parish, you have it next year. We can do replay.
But I can tell you, as a TV umpire, in my view, there's much more work to be done than the on-field umpires, right? Because it's virtually like you're umpiring as well, you know. You have to count every ball,
Yeah, miss
right? If there's a miscount there, then you're supposed to be able to say to the guys, look, there's one remaining, or you might have missed one, etc. So you're recording every minute of that game.
See, it's hard.
Right?
See, it's tough.
Yeah, how long it takes for that over to be completed. because obviously you know there's a fine and a charge for slow overrate, etc. So there's a lot of work for the TV umpire, right? Now, it might be difficult at that given time to be doing that work and still trying to train somebody at the same time, because there's quite a bit of work that you have to do as a TV umpire.
So what do you call the training before the game?
That, I hope, might be something that can be arranged, right? But to say, wait until the day of the match and to get that done is going to be very, very difficult.
I understand that, Clancy, but I was just going to the point where, again, just to highlight what you said, we're going to have to find avenues to keep our personnel who have that interest. We have to keep that interest alive, and to keep that interest alive, they must be able to see some opportunity to elevate up the...
And next thing we need, as Stephen said, regional tournaments have to start doing replays. Regional for the tournaments have to start replays at the match. So umpires can start to train.
Right. One of the other area that might be possible, Peter Nero, who is the umpire's manager in the region, right? With responsibility from the Cricket West Indies, right? He, I know for sure, would have had that experience, have these equipments whereby he can, simulate situations. So if he's in the area at the given time, then it might be possible, right, to ask him to do a few of those situations where he can have training for the umpires in the area, right? Because outside of that, I don't see it happening in no international fixture. Right?
You're quite right, because it's too tight.
Yeah, it's too complicated at the time. And I'm sure if there's something put in place, Peter would be willing to do so, right? So representation would have to be made, right?
You can tell
to the training committee.
You can tell because which you tell the match referee is very hard to know. There's a lot of reports, everything you ever gets.
Oh yeah.
What you told me that too on the show here.
Oh yeah.
It does an easy job like people think.
No, to me, and for nowadays, much more easier than to be in the box, right? Because if you have a doubt, then you merely go here, right?
You have to figure out all that.
Yeah, you have to sort that out, right? And obviously, there's no room for error from your end, right? So that this is why you find right now anything outside of the normal view where you have doubt, guys just go up, right? Because that's the protocol available, right? There's still the possibility, if you are satisfied, you can just give your decision as might be necessary, right? But once it gets close, guys are not going to be making any decision.
They're taking the chances.
Right? So they would do that. Because I recall as well doing an ODI in St. Vincent. Myself and the former Australian umpire, what's his name? He was top of the umpiring at the time.
Former player?
No, he was an umpire. I'm not remembering his name now. But he was once the ICC training umpire as well, right? And we were doing this game, and I gave Shandipal run out before lunch, right? Because at that point, we had to move and get into position to run out.
Yeah.
Now, guys move, yes, but then if they don't get there, they just go up, right? So I gave Chandra run out, and it was like that close, And I recall my colleague at the time was saying, Clancy, why didn't you go upstairs? Right? And no, I said, well, I was satisfied, and I gave him, no, the replay show I was correct, right? And then Hugh Crasco used to say, go Clancy, you don't need no TV, man.
Casco?
Yeah. The commentator. Because once it gets that close, And I can tell you, umpires are going to go up. They're not going to take the chances anymore.
I know what I mean.
Quick question, gentlemen, as we're going to... Want to say something?
Close out, no.
Yeah, we're going to close up now. Quick question. Do you think television replay is enhancing the umpiring standard, or it puts it under a lot more microscope? Quickly.
Well, it goes to...
They put it under a lot more pressure. You know, you have a lot more pressure. For the umpires on the field, to ease the strain off of the umpire on the field, everything they go upstairs. I mean, sometimes a man run out big gun and still you know, I don't like that. You can sit that one out, just give it. But they're highly about that. Give them a work to do. And so it make the third umpire job, as you know now, they're not carrying no ball.
The
Third umpire no ball, no ball. So for now, them get rid of the umpire off the field.
Clancy?
Well, it's good and it's bad. But I figure they have taken it, in my view, a little too far. Right? For the run out and possible the LBW, I would say yes. Right? But it seems to be creeping totally into the game altogether. And then we're complaining that the game is too slow.
Yeah.
Right? But
That's
then,
up the game a lot, man.
yeah, but every time you go, right,
Yeah.
then the game slows down. Right? So there are benefits, right? And obviously, in most things, you have the good and the bad. Right?
All right, so gentlemen, we really have to wrap up now. We're a little over time. So again, today we're just discussing the contributions, the life and time of the great Pat White, and so we're just going to give our closing remark. And Clancy, we'll start with you. I can give you a closing remark.
Well, I certainly mourn his passing. I join with the family as well, because as I mentioned earlier, we were very close as friends, right? As colleague, he was my boss. We were fellow umpires, and anytime he has any clothing he'd want to be adjusted. A lot of people don't know that side of me as well, but he would call me and say, Clancy, I need some adjustment to this clothing, right? And I would have taken care of that for him as well. And certainly, I used to, the wife will confirm this, I'm always checking in on him, hey, what's up, you know. And then when it gets down to the point when she said to me, well, look, he ain't doing all that well, you know, I said, okay, just let him know. And I checked, and she said, yes, certainly, and let him know. And before we actually went to the latter stages, right, even when I called, the wife would put him on the phone and say, hey, Clancy call, and we would talk, you know, make a little joke here and there and that kind of thing, you know, and I would say, well, look, hey, be strong, but fight on, you know. So when the news came through of his passing, he shook me up, because as one individual said, once you're burying your friends, then you know you're in the departure lounge. So you know, it really shook me, and I'm still mourning that every time I talk about it, because how close we were.
James?
Yeah, there's a time I would like to say deepest sympathy to his family, his wife and his son, from the Umpire Association, and from my family. Be strong. These are difficult times, but with our prayers behind you, you will surely make it through.
Charlie?
Yeah, well, John, I say my condolences again to the family, especially the wife. She was a very good friend. She worked in the Ministry of Education and Sports too. So she and me were very close, up to now, you know what I mean? So my deepest condolences to the Veron and the son and the family, you know what I mean? So, hey, we can miss him. You know what I mean? He was a great man. He was a great man, very helpful.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you would have heard it there, and so on behalf of the entire Parish League circuit, we just want to extend our condolences, sympathy to the family, and friends, and just as James just said a while ago, just put everything in the hands of the Lord, and He will carry you through these rocky times. No more I could say, just as Taddy just said, he was a great man. Clancy said he would dot all the I's, cross all the T. He was a fighter. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind. I think Basil, who we had earlier, spoke about him really pushing the Leeward Island umpires and the interests of the Leeward Island umpiring fraternity. And so we know on the local scene, we heard him on the radio, the TV, commentating the cricket. We heard about the football and netball. So obviously a total sport personality, and Antigua and Barbuda has really lost one of its finest gem. And so we really do mourn this loss, but at the end we do celebrate all of his accomplishment and achievement and what he has instilled in most of us as sports personnel. And so again, to the family, do accept our condolences and best wishes. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our guest today, we had Basil Morgan with us just a bit out of Montserrat. We have James Stephen, and we also had Clancy Mack, and of course our co-host, orchestrator of this show, Taddy Arundel. I'm your host, Leroy John Baptist, asking everyone to stay safe and just keep your eyes on the ball.